All right, Dave, before we watch the episode, I got something for you.
All right, shoot.
All right, Donnie Matney on Facebook noticed that you like the little puns in the show, right?
Oh, yeah, wordplay is my jam.
Right, with the forward esteem. So Donnie writes, so I noticed on Monday's episode that when Saul was at the bar with the woman he was stressing out over, the person repeatedly breaking the bread. Mm-hmm. Could that be a play on the Breaking Bad title? So if I looked into that, if you remove the R and E from bread, you have the word bad. So he's breaking bread.
You son of a bitch. Okay, so you take out RE from bread, and it makes bad.
Right.
What on the periodic table does RE stand for?
Well, according to Donnie, it's...
Oh, don't tell me he looked that up too.
Yeah, totally.
Oh, come on.
So it's, according to Donnie Matney on Facebook, RE is the element rhenium, and coincidentally, rhenium is used for bone pain and cancer therapy.
Oh, now, is that a coincidence?
I don't think so. So bravo, Donnie. You get the gold.
I'm applauding you right now, Donnie.
All right, Dave, let's watch this show.
The FBI finds kids trapped in your creepy van. Just stay real cool and tell them you're the ice cream man. But all that crying just gave you away. Who you gonna call to skip a prison stay?
All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is It's All Good, Man, the Better Call Saul podcast. I'm Brian. With me, as always, is my co-host, Dave. Dave, how the hell are you?
I am feeling excrement this evening.
Wonderful, wonderful. Dave and I co-host a Nothing Important podcast, which you can hear at www.nothingimportantpodcast.com. Before we start, It's All Good, Man is brought to you by Audible. You can get a free audio download and a 30-day free trial at audiotrial.com/nothingimportant. Or you can go to itsallgoodman.com, click on the banner on the right-hand side. They have over 150,000 titles that you can choose from. Download it, give them a try, audible.com.
And as a side note, I have personally edited several of those titles myself.
There you go. See, it comes full circle, right? So make sure to check it out. It'll help the show out, and it'll make us feel like we're actually doing something. All right, Dave. So, third episode.
Third episode of Better Call Saul.
What was your initial thoughts, Dave?
My initial thoughts were that it's kind of going the direction that I thought it would. In all honesty, the way the plot's developing. That the family really did take the money. They're probably going to do some stupid things because there are some really lame white people that don't know much about crime, obviously. And, Saul's going to get involved and probably screw some things up, and it's just going to keep progressing.
All right, wonderful. What I did like is it started with another time jump.
Yeah, it did.
It even went further back in time to slipping Jimmy in jail.
Yes.
For like assault and, what was it? Assault, and they thought there was going to be some sexual charges there.
Public indecency.
Public indecency.
That's what it was. Yeah.
Is that what it was? Did they address it?
Well, that's what we watched the side screen. The second, what do you call it? The second
it's
screen.
Better Call Saul StorySync.com through AMC.
There you go. So we were watching that, and that's what it said. Public indecency was one of the these, but they don't really specify what exactly happened in the scene. All you know is that something happened. I assumed he said something about a Chicago sunroof, so I'm assuming he might have been peeping or purposely fell through a sunroof into a sunbathing sort of situation.
Awesome. Well, hopefully they'll come back and they'll explain that further. Hopefully we'll get another time jump down the road, because that set up a lot of Chuck and Jimmy's relationship.
Right.
Like it added a whole new layer to that, because we talked before how the way that we saw Saul was that he was always just kind of a shithead, and that just absolutely reaffirmed it, because in this episode, big time jump, and it shows him obviously in some trouble in a Cook County jail, and we are in Chicago.
Right.
We know all about Cook County jails. I've never been there, but it's pretty notorious, right? It's a pretty rough place.
Right. Yeah. You don't really want to end up there.
Right.
But I did notice that he wasn't a lawyer yet.
No.
That actually took me by surprise.
Yeah.
I kind of thought he had been kind of always on that path of being the shithead lawyer, not the shithead that turned into a lawyer.
Right, which is great because we talked about how happy we were that it wasn't a fall from grace type deal,
right?
And that was kind of ambiguous up until today's episode where they show like no, he actually got in trouble with the law himself, and his brother had to come from Albuquerque to Chicago to bail him out. If
he even bailed him out.
Yeah, we don't know yet. I'm assuming.
Happened.
I mean, he's not in jail currently, so
yeah.
So.
And the story sync says something about Chuck's game plan for Saul was to basically start your career as a lawyer. I guess since he's so intimately familiar with the law by now by breaking it so many times.
So I bet throughout the course of because there's only 10 episodes.
Right. Yeah, we're a third of the way through. Almost.
Yeah, already a third of the way through. So I hope that somehow it keeps coming back to that and it weaves in and out how that affects him as he becomes, Jimmy McGill, lawyer, trying to do at least somewhat right to Saul Goodman, who is a criminal lawyer, which adds a whole new element to the whole criminal lawyer thing because he really was a criminal that became a lawyer.
Right.
I also like how they established the time jump because at the beginning it had like the mailbox and he was throwing stuff in, and I was like, well, that's a different mailbox than Chuck's house. So where are they going with this? But I did like that they threw the Zach Morris brick phone.
Zach Morris brick phone, yes.
Which is, now that I think about it, that's a great parallel to the mailbox at Chuck's house.
Right.
Right? Because at the beginning they established this where Chuck was had to throw all the stuff away before he went and talked to Saul. Had to put it.
It was Saul or Jimmy putting the stuff in the mailbox to go talk to Chuck, and this time it was Chuck putting the stuff in the lockbox to go talk to Jimmy.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, and it just cracked me up to see the big Zach Morris phone.
Yeah, and that kind of like it hit me because I'm like, oh, clever little ode to the 2000, and I'm like, wait, that's not 2000.
That's like way before 2000. That's what I thought too, and then like before they established what was going on, I was like, okay, so does he have some sort of thing going where like it's like an untrackable cell phone? Like that's pretty
so
resourceful.
Old. He still has his SIM card from way back in
So awesome. So they meet and they talk about trying to get him out of jail, property damage, assault, and possible sex offender charges. There you go. Is what he was in trouble for. And then we got a little bit more backstory on Kim.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's obviously a pre-existing relationship. There's a lot of. It was almost like they were trying to avoid sexual attention in that scene, knowing that it's happened.
Right, which makes a lot of sense because remember when Saul went to the Hamlin offices and he walks out and she's leaning against the wall and he takes the cigarette from her lips, smokes a cigarette, and it doesn't. Like, why did he get away with that, right?
Right, yeah.
Like, how the hell did he get away with this? So that puts that all into perspective, like, because now you can think back and be like, oh, well, that's obviously why she was okay with that, because nobody in their right mind having a cigarette, some guy comes up, pulls it out of your mouth. You're not just going to keep leaning against the wall and then let him place it back in your mouth.
Right, right.
Which now begs the question, remember...
How many things has he placed into her mouth?
Yes, we need to take a poll on that. But remember, he went to ask her a question and she cut him off.
That's right.
Right? And then later in the episode, it appears that Jimmy likes to call her up and have phone sex with her. So I was wondering...
Or at least try to have phone sex with her.
Yeah, try to have fun with the robot sex voice.
Yeah.
Which is awesome because I wonder if that's what his whole question was, because he was like, hey, could you just, and she said no, and he was like, oh, okay, and he dropped it. So I wonder if, since he was having a bad day, because remember right before that he beat up the garbage can and he was frustrated with the way that whole meeting went.
That's right, yeah.
And so maybe he was like, hey, like try to release the pressure or whatever, trying to talk her into doing the whole phone sex thing, and she just cuts him off right there. Which was a great way to do that, because if you're not paying attention, it just looked like a weird scene. And you had to wait a week to put that in perspective. So I think when we're done with the initial 10 episodes, I think you and I had kind of planned to go back and do like a recap of like 2 episodes at a time. And as we're taking all these notes, we can go back through them and just point out some of the things we might have missed before. But that was a really good way to go back to that. I thought that was pretty clever.
Pretty smooth.
Absolutely.
Smooth. and he's getting ready to make the phone call when he makes the grand realization that Nacho's probably going to try this tonight. So he decides he's going to call him to warn him, and he grabs the supplies to do the robot sex voice.
Right, yeah.
And then you made the comment, and I'm flashing back to my college days where you're stuffing the toilet paper,
making a blow
the fabric
tube.
snuffer into a tube, you know, so the RA doesn't know what's going on in your dorm room.
That's where I thought he was going. I was like, okay, well, you know, he drank some last time. Maybe he likes to smoke weed every once in a while. You know, so Craig and Betsy Kettleman and the family definitely embezzled the $1.6 million, as we found out at the end of the episode.
Yeah, the story sync even gave you the amounts and the numbers of each denomination that was hidden in the bag.
Yeah, and I like how they set it up where Nacho was sitting there in the van, spying on them, because I didn't catch it at first. Why was he calling them and telling them they were in danger? And I actually thought before it went to commercial, I was like, there's not going to be anybody out there.
But they showed somebody out there.
But then it showed somebody out there like 2 seconds after I said that.
Right.
But I was kind of on the right path because it turns out they ended up actually kind of quote unquote kidnapping themselves and kind of fleeing into the mountains. But thing
I'm not even so sure that they kidnapped themselves at this point. Like, were they just hiding out?
Well, yeah, they were hiding out.
No, I'm saying, like, did they intentionally make it look like a kidnapping, or was that a hurriedly, let's get out of here because somebody is going to come in here soon, you know, just kind of freaking out?
Like, so what if they left and then left no, because they established that, well, they made it seem as if they intentionally ransacked the house, and then Jimmy was like, well, then where's the doll? She has this doll in every picture. Where's the doll?
Right.
Right, so he was making the point that they intentionally staged their house to make it look like it was a breaking and entering and a kidnapping to save themselves, while they kind of escaped into the mountains. But then where's the end game from there? Where were they going to go? Right,
I just didn't think they were that clever. I guess I not giving them enough credit.
What if it's like some sort of big twist where they actually left to hide out, but they didn't ransack the house? But it was after they left, somebody else came in and destroyed the house.
That's very possible also.
Yeah. So a couple things we're definitely established is that that Nacho, he wasn't framed, but he looks guilty he's a victim of circumstance.
That's the phrase I was looking for. Yep, victim of circumstance.
Victim of circumstance, because he absolutely had intentions to do that, and they just kind of beat him to the punch when they escaped off to the mountain.
Right, and they went out the back.
Yeah, they went out the back.
So Nacho never even saw him leave. So
and Saul went on a hike like through the mountains and ended up finding him. So I guess he got him out of jail within the one day, right?
Which the family thing you said, a listener noticed the family icons on the back of the car, which was Saul's clue.
Well, we talked about how Tuco's grandmother had a similar car, just a different make within the same company,
right,
as the car of Betsy. So when we talk about the two different makes of the car, one thing we didn't pick up on is that, and they showed it in tonight's episode.
Huge clue in tonight's episode.
Elliot Howie wrote us on Facebook, and he made it a point that the family did have stick figures on the back of their car, and Tuco's grandmother does not. Eagle eye.
Yeah, say eagle. Like, are you a sniper? Like, seriously, like, yeah, I didn't catch that at all.
So good job, Elliot Howie. We appreciate the heads up. And for those of you out there, make sure that you participate and you hit us up on Facebook. If you see something we don't, or you have a good idea, we'll definitely read it on air.
So I have in my notes, barter in the bathroom.
Right.
And I'm going to probably come up with some kind of pun. I mean, we stole the petty with a prior.
Petty with a prior, and we'll talk a little bit more about that at the end of the episode.
And then the guy's dropping a deuce, and Saul's trying to barter with him. So I'm sitting there thinking barter in the bathroom. But then it kind of occurs to me, like, what's up with this guy? Why does it always show Saul trying to get this guy to deal with him and his clients?
Right. It's like they constantly butt heads. I don't think they've given him a name, because we watch it with the closed captions on.
Right. And I think they did give him a name. Honestly,
did we miss that?
Party foul. Didn't catch that. Mm-hmm. But I'm thinking, like, why do they keep showing this guy? Like, what is his role going to be in the show? He obviously always deals with first-time offenders.
Right.
So
you think there's going to be some sort of significance where he comes into play at the end?
I think so. I think he's going to have some sort of effect. Otherwise, like, why are they showing this guy? Other than the fact that just to show Saul's frustration with his situation.
But Saul kind of gains his respect. Remember, he gives him the bag of Fritos. And then he gives him the bag of Fritos in the last episode, and then he goes ahead and lowers the charges for the Fetty with the Friar.
Right.
And in this episode, he talks him. He talks down as well, and then it turns out that guy doesn't even know what case he's talking about, and that's how Saul makes the deal, because he's like, "Hey, asshole,
Right.
like, how are you defending these people if you don't even know what you're talking about?" So I kind of got it as Saul was like kind of subtly blackmailing him, like, "Fucker, I know you don't even pay attention, so you're going to give me this goddamn deal, or I'm going to rat you out." And then that's why he wouldn't give him the folder back.
Right. Okay. But I'm thinking this guy's going to come into play later. He has to.
Where I would say he would come into play, just thinking about it, because Kim made it a point to mention that she was the second chair for the embezzlement case.
Right.
What if this guy ends up being Saul's second chair on the other side of that case?
Like they butt heads so much, and then somehow they come to this whole, like, you know what, just jump in with me on this case.
Right. There's like
these guys are first time offenders.
Right.
You
and
know,
there's a familiarity there between the two of them, and maybe
that whole like the whole like colleagues that kind of hate each other, but that respect that comes out of
because
that
you have two court appointed lawyers. Mm-hmm. You know, maybe they'll come together and fight.
That's right, because he's just a court appointed lawyer too.
Yeah,
so
just
this is his big shot.
$700 a pop. Maybe
his big first case too.
Yeah, maybe Saul will talk him into helping him out with this first case, because I feel like that's the way it's going. Like, somehow Saul is going to end up on the other side of the case from the family.
Yeah, I don't know if that other guy's a state's attorney or something.
I just feel at some point they keep making a point to show that initially Saul and this guy butt heads, and then eventually they come to a consensus.
Right.
So I feel that something very similar is going to happen, like a team up at the end. Like, maybe that'll be like the big, like one of the big major cruxes is you know, they finally like, yeah, I'll go in with you on this, because Saul can't go it alone.
Right.
I mean, lawyers typically have a team, and Saul knows nobody, and Chuck, from everything we saw so far, would probably be really hesitant to team up with Saul, because it seems like they have like that love-hate relationship where it's like, hey, I love you because you're my brother, but if there was no blood between us, we probably wouldn't even talk or acknowledge each other. Yeah. And Chuck already showed that he's willing to go against Saul.
By the way, we keep saying Saul for Jimmy, so don't let us know that we keep doing that. We're aware.
Yeah, we get it. But you know what I mean? Like, Chuck's already shown that he's not going to take Jimmy's side just because they're brothers, right?
Yeah,
because
he still has his own person. He's his own
He's encouraged because he encourages Jimmy to change his name and his identity just because the same last name is shared with the law firm that he started, right? So that already shows it's not a blind loyalty,
right?
Right. So maybe that'll come into play as it goes on, and maybe that's why Saul will have to team up with this guy.
It's very, very, very possible.
Yeah. So it turns out that Nacho definitely wasn't the person to do it, but he's obviously the person of interest, and I can't wait to see where it goes from there, because that's when the show kind of ended. Saul found them in their tent and found money in the bag and cut to black. Right. But it never actually showed Nacho getting out. So I'd like to see like where that relationship goes from there.
Yeah, where that's going to happen. And I did notice, I have to mention that in the story sync, they popped up a question. They pop up a lot of questions. You take these polls and see how you compare with the majority of people. It's pretty cool. You should probably check it out.
Yep.
But it says, what does Saul think that Badger's in for the first time he meets Badger in Breaking Bad? And I'm thinking, and I'm watching how Saul enters the room when Nacho's in the room, compared to when Badger's, because when Badger's in the room, he just storms in. Blah, blah, blah. You cops get out of here. This is my client. What did you say? He's got all this confidence. And when Nacho's in the room for like the first time, he's just kind of like, hey, buddy.
Yeah, hey,
we're going to go with this.
Yeah.
You know? This is a totally different attitude. So he's still far from
but
where he's going to be.
You pointed out something kind of funny. Saul originally thought that Badger was in trouble for
public masturbation,
but he's really in jail for
distribution of narcotics.
Right. And speaking of that other lawyer who was talking in the bathroom, that guy messed up the cases as well.
Yeah, I was going to say that too. Yeah. Yeah, it's like, it's the parallel of getting the case wrong.
So maybe that guy comes into play because Saul starts learning from his playbook. Right? Maybe he because like a lot of characteristics of that guy seems to be how Saul was in Breaking Bad.
Yeah, I can see that.
Right? Just cocksure and doesn't know the own cases that he's
like either he's got too many cases to care about, or he gets more selective about the importance of cases that he gives a shit about. Mm-hmm. That kind of whole thing, yeah.
And he just kind of goes through the motions to make money.
Right.
Right. Absolutely.
Oh yeah, and there is one thing that I actually didn't like in this episode.
What's that?
And it's a problem that I have with a lot of shows when he's explaining to Kim about the Kettlemans kidnapping themselves, and he keeps going through like a more detailed explanation, and she keeps saying like, I don't get it, and he says something else and she's like, I don't get it, and it's totally just a device to get the audience to grasp what's going on,
right?
But it makes the character look so stupid. Like, you are a professional lawyer,
right,
and you don't understand what the hell he's trying to say,
right? Yeah,
you know, and
it was just solely exposition. That's all,
right.
That's all it was. Exposition.
And as someone who, I like to think I pick up on things pretty quick, makes me kind of feel like you don't respect my intelligence, in all honesty. But yeah, that's a total like plot device that just kind of grinds my gears.
And you know what? One thing that I was thinking of too, and I don't know if you'd consider them spoilers, but I guess it's whatever. I'm just going to put it out there. So if you want to turn down your iPad or iPhone or whatever you're listening to this on for the next like minute and a half, but you looked up IMDb, and the actors who play the twins only have 2 episodes, right? Tuco was only down for 2 episodes.
Right.
And let me tell you why I'm disappointed in that. I'm disappointed in that because one of our listeners, Matt in Jersey, that's what he calls himself, Matt in Jersey, came up with this great idea of how it was going to unfold. He came up with the idea that Saul was going to use the twins to embezzle money from the Kettermans himself.
Well, that was what he was trying to do in the first place. He's trying to get them to get in the accident with Kim, or with Betsy Kettleman, and extort money out of her in the first place. So he was right, unless Matt, right?
Yes, Matt.
Unless Matt thought that they were going to get even deeper with it and go for the whole shebang.
Right, exactly. The way I got it from Matt is that as they learned more and more about the case, it was going to be a bigger and grander scheme, and that's how Saul was going to make it up to the twins for getting their legs broke. Like, okay, I get it, but I got a better idea of how to take these fuckers down and get their money.
Well, there's 2 ways you can go, because one, he paid for the legs, the surgery or whatever. He paid their medical bills, and hopefully maybe they'll pull in a fast one with us on IMDb, and they just gave the main characters the 10 episodes for credits, and then they'll give them more credits as they bring characters back into the show. I'm kind of hoping that happens.
Right, because who doesn't want to see more Tuco?
Absolutely.
I just want to see what he cooks next.
I want 3Co.
Well played.
Just can't, top of the head right there. Just shooting from the hip.
Good one.
Also, I really did start laughing when he said, I'm on the highway to the danger zone. I'm not going to lie.
Well, because
Kenny Loggins' Top Gun reference right there. The relationship with Mike got a little deeper. Unfortunately, had a little bit of a technology snafu, and we might have missed a bit of the conversation.
Yeah, we missed like 30 seconds of it. Right when Saul asked him why he's not going to press charges.
Fade to black.
The goddamn AMC live stream went out on us by the time I got it refreshed and back up.
Mike says nobody likes to leave home.
Right. So
it was the perfect. It was like a movie. We missed everything except for
the whole goddamn episode. Probably like that was the key moment of the entire episode, and AMC's live stream went down on us for about 30 seconds. So
no, we're not going to blame AMC. Remember, it's Comcast.
It's Comcast. Actually, I totally blame Comcast for that one.
Yeah.
And if you want to hear my rants and raves about Comcast, feel free to go nothingimportantpodcast.com, because I think Dave and I spent like a whole 45 minutes on episode 6 just trashing that company.
Yes,
but
so thank you, Comcast. If you'd like to sponsor the it's all good.
Yeah. Comcast, if you'd like to sponsor us, I don't want your fucking money.
We'll cut out the best parts of our podcast and ship it over to you, you assholes.
But yeah, that was great. That was great seeing that relationship develop. We finally got to see the big confrontation that they were kind of teasing in the teaser trailers before the show started. Pokes him in the chest, and Mike takes him down.
And then he gets arrested. They actually arrest Saul for assault.
Yeah. going back to the beginning, which is great because as it opened, it showed a much younger Saul, even younger than he is now. And one of the charges was assault.
Yeah, assault.
Ah, nice. See, I set him up, Dave, and you knock him down. Set him up and knock him down.
No matter how far I have to stretch, I'll get there.
So, typically this part of the show is where Dave and I do kind of predictions of what we're going to see in the next show. But
before we close, I just want to say at the end of the story sync, you answer all these questions, you make all these predictions, and then it gives you a little score at the end. And we are most like Jimmy. So it's on a scale of Jimmy to Saul, and we were definitely most like Jimmy. So it is verifying that we are still thinking he's very early in his progression, that we have ways to go.
Right. Righteous in our endeavors, but easily persuaded. So Ejor Standovic on Facebook points out that the nail salon that Saul lives in and works out of is the very same nail salon that Saul tried to get Walter and Jesse to launder their money through in Breaking Bad.
Nice catch.
Nice catch, right?
Very, very nice catch. Yeah, I didn't even think about that. And those are the kind of references we like.
Absolutely.
Very subtle. You got to think about it a little bit.
Right. Like Dave and I talked about this before. We're your buddies on the couch. We're not like the super analytical guys. As soon as we watch it, we take as many notes as we can during the episode. And the first thing we do is we sit down, turn on the microphones, and we talk. Just how you would turn to your buddy on the couch. We're your buddies on the couch. So please, if you want to participate, please participate. We'll throw you into the discussion.
Yeah, we're going to read like any good idea that, I mean, there's already been so many that we don't catch. And
right.
Yeah, I mean, and if we get something wrong, please let us know. I love to be proven wrong. Are you kidding me? It's awesome.
Once again, this is just as much your show as it is our show.
Exactly.
All right, Dave. So to bring it back to our friend Donnie at the beginning of the show.
Donnie the Genius, and you might as well just change your screen name to Donnie the Genius.
Donnie the Genius, breaking bread guy. Also suggested that we do a midweek podcast to speculate on the next episode. And this is typically the part of It's Saul Goodman where we do that.
Right, yeah.
But we're going to take Donnie's suggestion since he's such a genius, and we're actually going to have a preview episode towards the end of the week, every week going out forward. That is called, Dave...
Preview with a prior.
Preview with a prior. Get it? Get it? Because it's a preview of the next episode and there was a prior
episode.
See, it's funny because it's a play on words.
Donnie the Genius.
So anyway, folks, make sure that you...
And I'm going to thank you because that gives us about an extra 5 minutes to jack around.
Yeah. Absolutely. So make sure that you folks are subscribed to It's Saul Goodman. That'll be coming to your feed in a couple days. So with that, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for participating. For all your Better Call Saul's news, rumors, reviews, make sure to hit up our friends over at calltosaul.com. That's calltosaul.com. You can find us at isaulgoodman.com. And while you're there, why don't you click the little icon that says It's Saul Goodman on location, because our buddy Travis from Albuquerque actually travels around to sites on the show and takes pictures of what they look like today.
Special thank you for that.
Yeah, which is so incredibly awesome. He's got a bunch of great pictures. One of my favorite ones he's got of all the billboards up. Like there's actually one that says like "Don't call Saul," and he actually has a picture of what Saul's office looks like today. It's like a bar called Hooligans, and he went and took a picture of the skate park, and he actually messaged me today, like, hey, is there any location you want me to go out to? And I'm like, dude, you do great work. Just go do your thing, man. Yeah. So please make sure you hit him up. It's an Instagram and Twitter account. That's Travis from Albuquerque. Go to isaulgoodman.com and click on the It's Saul Goodman on location link. All right, so that's going to wrap it up. Dave?
Call us idiots, call us geniuses, whatever. Just call us.
You better call Saul. You best call now.